Shedeur Sanders is grinding while his opponents is asleep. Boog stated this level of success doesn't happen by accident. The amount of stuff Shedeur gets accomplished throughout a day.
Right when the critics were calling Shedeur Sanders spoiled, saying he only got here because of his last name, Boog Knight pulled back the curtain and showed everybody what's actually happening behind closed doors. Forget the sound bites for a second. This is a real time-stamped log of one man's night. Recovery sessions past midnight, playbook meetings stacked on top of full workouts, updates that don't stop until the sun comes back up. If you thought this quarterback competition in Cleveland was close, wait until you see the difference in what each guy is actually doing when the cameras aren't rolling. Let's talk about the narrative first, because it's been out there for months. You've heard the analysts, you've heard the podcasters, you've heard the takes. Shedeur Sanders is soft. Shedeur Sanders got handed everything. Daddy's money, daddy's name, daddy's connections. That's been the storyline from a certain group of NFL insiders since before he ever threw a pass in Cleveland. And look, everybody's entitled to an opinion, but opinions are a lot easier to hold on to when you're not actually watching the guy's schedule. That's where Boog Knight comes in. Boog isn't some random account. He's been around Shedeur, documenting the day-to-day, and recently he posted a real-time breakdown of exactly what a night looks like for this kid heading into training camp. Not a highlight reel, not a hype video, a literal clock, 6:30 a.m. to after midnight, still going. Here's what got people's attention. It wasn't just that Shedeur was working out. Everybody in the NFL works out. That's the bare minimum to have a job in this league. What stood out was the layering. Run, then lift, then ice bath, then straight into a playbook meeting on Zoom. No gap, no scrolling on the phone in between. One thing bleeds into the next thing, and it keeps going well past the hour when most people, including a lot of grown professionals, have already called it a night. And this is the part that should make you rethink the spoiled narrative. If this man genuinely had that entitled mentality people accuse him of, you don't see this. You don't see a guy putting in this kind of hour count with a training camp battle still 3 weeks out. This is a guy who understands the job is his to lose, not the other way around. And he's treating every single night like the deadline is tomorrow morning, because for him, it basically is. So before we get into exactly what that recovery process looks like, and before we get into how it stacks up against what's happening on the other side of that quarterback room, I want you to sit with that timestamp for a second. 6:30 a.m. start. Still training, still meeting, still recovering past midnight. That's not a highlight, that's a habit.
Boog stated this level of success doesn't happen by accident. The amount of stuff Shedeur gets accomplished throughout a day needs to be studied. After all the physical work today, time to recover and still handle business calls while doing that. Been going non-stop since 6:30 a.m. I had to add that as well. I just saw that since 6:30 a.m. this has been going on. Wow. All right, before we get to what Shedeur Sanders had to say, Boog also stated being the league's top earner doesn't happen by accident. You have to play pretty damn good, but you also have to do the extra work around the clock when no one is looking. The best brands aren't built overnight and not by accident. This here is intentional. You get out what you put in. #legendary.
So if the work is really this consistent, why does recovery even need its own conversation? Because grinding without recovering is how careers get shortened, not extended. This is where one of the subscribers on the coverage actually asked the exact right question. She wanted to know if Shedeur is going to be able to hold up once the playoffs roll around, given how hard he's already going in the offseason. It's a fair concern. You see a guy training this often, and the first thing you wonder is whether he's going to burn himself out before the games that actually matter. But when you look at what he described about his own day, the answer starts to make sense. In his own words, the order goes run first, then lift. After the lift, straight into the ice bath. From there, he transitions into a playbook meeting, going over assignments, going over reads, going over everything he needs on that Zoom call. That's not just physical output. That's physical output followed immediately by physical recovery, followed immediately by mental preparation. 3 different systems in his body and his brain getting worked in the same stretch of hours. That ice bath step matters more than people give it credit. Recovery isn't some extra, optional step for a guy trying to survive a 17-game season plus a playoff run. It's the difference between a body that's still fresh in December and a body that's breaking down by week 10. The fact that it's built into his routine every single night, not just after a hard practice, tells you this isn't random. Somebody planned this out. And then there's the throwing work itself, which ties directly back to why the recovery matters so much. He's not just standing in the pocket running routine dropbacks. He's been filmed working on throwing off balance, rolling out to his offside, getting the ball out on the move. Because in this offense under Todd Monken, a mobile quarterback isn't a bonus, it's an expectation. Throwing on the run puts more stress on the body than standing flat-footed in the pocket. So if you're adding that kind of training volume, you'd better be matching it with real recovery, or it catches up to you fast. That's the answer to the subscriber's question, honestly. He's not just hoping his body holds up, he's building the recovery process into the same night as the training every single time, so that by the time camp actually opens, this isn't new to his body, it's already a habit.
So that's what makes this concerning for Deshaun Watson's shoulder, because if he's already showing fatigue after the spring program, it could indicate further decline in his ability in that surgically repaired shoulder. And no, listen, I get it. I know a lot of you guys know I'm not a big Deshaun Watson fan. I don't want him to start for the Browns. I just don't think physically and mentally he's capable of playing the quarterback position anymore. I mean, just a little personal experience. I broke my collarbone when I was a freshman in high school during a football game. And no, I did not receive the world-class medical attention that a guy like Deshaun Watson's going to get, but I can attest to the fact that I have been impacted by that injury ever since then. Now, I didn't play quarterback in high school, but I did play center field in baseball.
Now put that next to what's being reported about the other quarterback in that room, because the contrast is not close. While all of this is happening, reports out of Cleveland have painted a very different picture for Deshaun Watson. Multiple people who've actually been at OTAs and minicamp, not just one, have said the same thing in different words. His arm looked like it tailed off. There's talk of fatigue in that surgically repaired shoulder, and that's a real concern because that shoulder has already been operated on once, and Watson is also carrying 2 Achilles tears into this season on top of it. Here's what makes that fatigue report actually alarming instead of just a minor note. Minicamp isn't live. Quarterbacks aren't getting hit. There's no real pass rush. The volume of throws isn't even close to what a training camp or a real game demands. So if a guy is already showing signs of arm fatigue during the lightest, most controlled part of the offseason, the question everybody should be asking is what happens once the pads come on and the reps triple? Now bring Boog's angle back into this. He made a point that goes beyond just Shedeur specifically. He talked about the difference between being good and being a superstar, and he used Travis Hunter as the other example, saying those two understand the work outside the work, the stuff that happens in between the workouts, the film, the recovery, the meetings, the stuff most guys don't put in. He said it straight. A lot of people want that spot, but too many people have distractions pulling them away from doing what it actually takes. That's not a shot at anybody specific, it's just the truth about why some careers take off and others stall. And when you line it up against Shedeur's actual documented night, the run, the lift, the ice bath, the film session, all before most people have gone to bed, it's hard to argue he's the one with the discipline problem people accused him of back when this competition first got talked about publicly. So you've got one side of that quarterback room logging 6:30 a.m. to past midnight, every recovery box checked. And you've got the other side dealing with fatigue reports that surfaced before the physical part of the season has even started. That's not manufactured drama. That's 2 different tracks these 2 guys are on, and it's happening in real time, right now, 3 weeks out from camp opening.
The film and all the stuff it takes to be a pro, like, bro, people don't go through half of that he go through. But it's the reason why, again, that he's, the number 1 licensed seller in the NFL. And it's the reason why Travis Hunter is right there, because them boys work and they understand the work outside of the work and the work in between the work. That's what it takes to be a superstar. It's different between being good or being a star and being a superstar. And the level of work that they put in, brother, unmatched. He ain't running home trying to worry about what girl he gonna be with tonight, or what drug I'm gonna take, what drink I'm gonna drink, what I'm no.
If the shoulder reports are accurate and the recovery gap is this wide, Cleveland might not have much of a decision left to make. Let's zoom out, because this isn't just about one viral night of updates. Training camp opens on July the 28th, and that's when the pads finally come on for real. Right now, everything happening is still shorts and helmets, walkthroughs, minicamp reps. The moment live contact starts, everything people are speculating about gets tested for real. For Watson, that's the concerning part. His numbers already tell a story if you go back and look at them. His completion percentage, his yards per attempt, his yards per game, all of it drops significantly from his years in Houston to his time in Cleveland after the shoulder surgery. If he's already showing signs of fatigue before a single live rep has been thrown in pads, there's a real question about whether that trend reverses or continues once the physical part of camp actually starts. For Shedeur, the story is the opposite. He's not just adding hours for the sake of adding hours. Every piece connects. The throwing drills built for a mobile offense, the recovery process built into every single night, the film and playbook sessions stacked right after the physical work, all of it is preparation for a season that's going to demand exactly that kind of conditioning. You don't build a routine like that unless you're planning on needing your body for all 17 games, plus whatever comes after if Cleveland makes a run. And that's really the answer to where this whole competition is heading. It's not about who talks the loudest or who has more experience on paper. It's about who's actually built to handle the grind of an NFL season without breaking down in October or November. Based on what's been documented publicly, one guy is running toward that standard every single night, and one guy is already showing warning signs before the hitting has even started. None of this means Watson is finished, and none of this is official. Nobody's naming a starter yet, but when you put the actual footage and the actual reporting side by side, it's not hard to see why so many people around this situation believe the competition is closer to settled than the front office is willing to say out loud right now.
Training very hard, but he's also working as hard to get his recovery. So he's spending a lot of time early morning, late night, to make sure that his body is fully recovered before he go back over again as far as the next day. So I hope that actually gave you a little bit more of a understanding of what is going on when it comes to the way Shedeur Sanders train.
So think about that the next time somebody tells you this kid isn't putting in the work. Let's recap what we actually know here, because it's easy to get lost in the noise. Shedeur Sanders has a documented routine that runs from early morning all the way past midnight. And it's not just training, it's training paired with real recovery, ice baths, playbook study, all stacked in the same night every night. Boog Knight is the one who's been putting these updates out, and his message has been consistent the whole time. This level of output doesn't happen by accident, and the guys who separate themselves are the ones doing the work nobody sees. On the other side, you've got a veteran quarterback in Deshaun Watson who's dealing with fatigue reports in his surgically repaired shoulder. And that's happening before training camp is even opened, before the physical demands really ramp up. 2 different paths, 3 weeks before the pads go on. Camp opens July the 28th. That's when we stop talking about routines and reports, and we start watching actual competition. Based on everything that's come out publicly so far, one side looks like it's building toward that moment, and one side is already dealing with questions it needs answered fast. So here's the real question heading into camp. Is this quarterback battle actually as close as the Browns are saying publicly, or has Shedeur Sanders already separated himself through sheer work ethic while Deshaun Watson is dealing with a shoulder that won't cooperate? Drop your answer in the comments, and I want to know specifically, do you think Todd Monken named Shedeur the starter before the first preseason game, or does this really go all the way to the final roster cuts? Make sure you're subscribed and you've got that notification bell on, because the moment camp opens on the 28th, we're going to be covering every single practice report as it happens. Let me know down below, Shedeur or Watson? Who's your quarterback 1 going into week 1? Smash like and subscribe.